Well, I hope this does not go too bad. You give a professor a stage to talk about something he's excited about, and this could be long. But no, I promise you we'll be stuck to the most important issues, and if at any point I'm overdoing it, just give me a signal and I promise to leave. Okay, as we set up this presentation, I really want to say thank you for the ministry for attending. It's very important that you see, where taxpayer money is going in terms of projects. There's fantastic. I'm really humbled and appreciative of all the platforms I get to work with on this project, and it's thanks to this funding. And thank you for Nordic Innovation for choosing us as one of the projects under the high growth entrepreneurship in the Nordic countries. We really feel privileged by that. Okay, so I'll set a little basis here to make sure that we really understand what we talk about when we speak about crowdfunding, and especially in the Nordic context. And after that, we will go into greater details in each presentation that will follow. So first of all, crowdfunding, from my perspective, could be called humane economics. It's the first time when we give people the power to influence economics decisions that really have high impact on society. When we look into the dictionary definition of what this is, it's very simple. It means we fund projects by collecting small sums from many people. And this has a few advantages. First of all, it's a solution for a huge gap that we have, especially in our countries, of early seed funding. Our investors are a bit traditional. They like to invest in companies that already do well. But if we really want to see a thriving entrepreneurial milieu or environment, then the bottom of the pyramid needs to be supported as well, not only the top of the pyramid. We need to put money in high-risk ventures. And in the most entrepreneurial countries, statistics show that 30% of investment goes to early seed or high risk. In the Nordic countries, there's not even statistics for that. The benefit, okay, so early seed funding. The other issue is you really get good feedback from the crowd. You are able to develop and test the concept before it goes out to market. And the third point is you also recruit your initial batch of customers and clients and brands and brand promoters and fans. So it means more democracy. More entrepreneurs get funding, more ventures, more artists, more social activists have opportunity to get funding than before, and at the same time, more people can invest, back, support, contribute to projects they're excited about. When we look into this graph, we see that, okay, crowdfunding actually can support all stages of financial development in a company, but probably it really answers that gap between the early stage and the high growth stage. Because once we stopped milking our parents and friends for the funding to get a venture going, and before we can address professional investors and angel investors and so on, there is a market gap right there. Who funds that critical period? And that critical period can be funded by the crowd. There's 4 types of crowdfunding. I won't go into the details, but basically, in equity, for the money that you give, you get share or ownership stake in a company. In reward, you get products or rewards for the money that you give. In lending, you get interest for the money that you provide for loans. And in donation, you really don't get anything tangible beyond the improvement of welfare of the group that you've decided to support. In terms of volumes, we're seeing this booming hysterically around the world. Not fast, hysterically. And the largest concentration is naturally in North America, Europe, and in Asia. And all, in 2014, the volume is around $16 billion already. And the projection is that this year, 2015, will already be worth $34 billion worldwide. And by 2025, this will be worth $93 billion. And we have 1,500 active crowdfunding platforms around the world. So this is growing very fast. This is becoming significant numbers, and this is very influencing our economies. When we look into where is this money going, we can make sure that really we are supporting entrepreneurs. Out of the money, the sums that I've been showing you, 6.7 billion went to support entrepreneurs, early ventures, small businesses. The rest went to social causes, altruism in the age of cynicism. Where else would you raise $3 billion for social causes? Arts. We all know about the struggling artists wherever we go, right? So film production, music production is able to raise significant sums of money. In the Nordic context, between 2012 and 2014, 254 million euros have been raised in all types of crowdfunding. When we divide it into the different types of crowdfunding, we see that the majority is going to lending. Okay, lending has been big, will be big, but the truth and the biggest impact, I think, in thinking differently comes in equity and in reward, although the volumes seem small. But they're not that small when you think about it. For a small industry, 25 million euros have been raised on local Nordic platforms in the last 2 years. In addition to it, another 15 million have been raised on global platforms like Kickstarter and Indiegogo that you've probably heard of. So it's becoming a significant amount of money running and influencing our industries. So when we take non-lending, okay, crowdfunding, Nordic activity currently accounts for 6% of European crowdfunding activities. These are some of the stars, Nordic stars on global platforms, okay? Everybody heard about Kickstarter. We see Nordic companies, although not being from Silicon Valley, are able to raise significant amounts of money. On Kickstarter, it's a Swedish company and a Norwegian company that have raised the most money, 1.6, 1.5. One is a game development, the other one is world's smallest wireless earbuds. On Indiegogo, the Danes have taken the prime prize, Airtime, with their wireless HDMI solution. But also on this list, if you see, we also have a little Icelandic champion as well. Mailpile, they've raised 163,000 US dollars on Indiegogo. These are the platforms that are currently operating in the Nordic area. There's around 20 platforms. In Denmark, we see high growth currently following the recent report that came, especially in the lending area. Many of these platforms are very small. If I need to highlight the biggest one, in terms of lending, it is TrustBuddy. In terms of equity, it is Investor. In terms of reward, in each country you have a local champion. In Denmark, it's Boomerang. In Finland, it's Mecenati. In Sweden, it's funded by me. And in Iceland, really, the European champion, Carolina Fund. These are also the members of our alliance. These are the platforms that are currently members. We hope to see this alliance growing even further in the future. We participated in a fantastic survey with Cambridge University that you will hear about later. But from our perspective, the biggest challenge currently for crowdfunding to develop and take up in the Nordic region is really regulation issues. We need to amend laws and regulations that were created in an age before internet and online communities and Facebook and what have you not into a new reality. And we need to make things a bit more flexible so that we can support the entrepreneurs and everybody that is enjoying this. So under this context, we have gathered together these few platforms and created our consortium and built up the Nordic Crowdfunding Alliance. Basically, we saw government priorities to support entrepreneurs. We saw that each individual platform did not know enough in its own area, being a small company in itself. We saw great growth internationally in the area. I'm coming from university. I can tell you there's a lot of curiosity about this phenomena from an academic perspective. And at the end of the day, we are starving for finance. So putting all these drivers together gave birth to the Nordic Crowdfunding Alliance. And we are committed to develop an ever more friendly Nordic region for crowdfunding. And we do this while facilitating and supporting entrepreneurs and their growth. What we do many things. I won't go into the details. Please visit the website. But we do events in order to create these public debates. We created a website where your campaigns can be projected in all countries. We have the product, Nordic Campaign. Once you register and you choose this option, your campaign will run on all platforms in parallel. And you can get funding from all the countries that are members. So far, beyond the talk, we've raised close to 10 million euros just on these platforms. Most of it in equity through investors, 7 million euros in that direction, with an average campaign value of 175,000 euros per campaign, and 2.6 million euros in reward campaigns, which are naturally smaller in value, or average value 3,000 euros. And these campaigns don't only deliver, they do very well. Success rates are between 35% to our champion, Carolina Fund, 78% success rate. Where else in the world would an entrepreneur have a 1 in 3 chance to get his finances? At the worst case, or get a 70% chance of getting the money they need. This is unprecedented. Really think about it. As an entrepreneur, you can spend years running after investors, after banks to get loans, and you'll never see a cent. And here, you have such great chances. And on top of that, these platforms are also growing fast, both in terms of total number of campaigns, but also the number of successful campaigns actually getting the money. Just to give you a feel, what are the best campaigns that came up on each platform? So of course, when you talk about equity, these are much higher volumes. The example here is a storage facility company that raised €1 million and later went public, or on the way to go public now. At the reward level, we're talking about 30,000 to 40,000 euros for different type of projects, films, ventures, sports center. So it's interesting. And I really am proud about what is happening in Iceland. Look at these figures. I'm comparing Carolina Fund to the global champions, Kickstarters and Indiegogo. And you can see that not in number of campaigns, volume of money, Carolina is surpassing Indiegogo and Kickstarter together in the Icelandic context, which actually translates to 88% market share. So you can be proud of Carolina Fund and of Iceland as being really a champion in this area. And there's no surprise that we are here today. These are the best campaigns ever that ran from Iceland on the different platforms. Nice sums have been raised, okay? You can see this here, anything between 40,000 euros to 120,000 euros, the highest one so far. But you can break that record, it's not that difficult. Okay, I want to give you some clues about, let's say you want to do this and run a campaign. So we have a discussion and we run reports among all the platforms and constantly studying what makes a campaign an actual success. And we can refine this to 3 points. One is the entrepreneur's commitment. You need to work hard promoting this through social media, be engaged in marketing, and don't think that just by publishing a campaign, money will fall from the sky. It's not going to happen. You need to be proactive. At some critical point, if you're doing this well, this can pick up and money can start falling from the sky. But until that point, you need to work hard. The other point is you need to invest in your campaign. You're competing. There's other campaigns, and people consider where they want to put their money in. So make it visually attractive. Put that video, put those images, put quality content in there so that we will be convinced this is indeed the best campaign that I can spend my money on. And the third point is build up on your network and be serious about it. Plan, time your different activities. Think in advance. Don't think about it as something you can just shoot from the hip and go for. If you plan, if you're serious, if you're committed, if you'll do it properly, the numbers show for themselves. You have a high chance of success, highest than any other alternative currently existing in the industry. When we look into why do we refuse campaigns, okay? Many people register campaigns on these sites, but what's the quality control? Well, we have a code of ethics that if I'll have time I can show you, but beyond that, I want to share with you some reasons why we don't publish campaigns. And this is anything between 55 to 95% recently I've heard of campaigns are rejected before they are published. And this is because moral, ethical issues and certain things like that. For example, we won't run the campaign for the Nazi party. It's not going to happen. We won't run campaigns for people who say they found a cure for cancer but don't have the medical proof for it, and so on and so forth. So there is a due diligence, there is a quality control happening. The other issue is in terms of goals. If you aim too high, you write 2 sentences, do a favor by posting a picture and ask for 100 million crowns, it's not going to happen. You need to invest, you need to be realistic, to put real evaluation, reliable budgets in order for us to say, okay, this is good enough planning to come up online. And the last point is, in terms of the project itself, is the entrepreneur responsive? Is he serious enough? Is he reacting? Is he committed? And of course, at the beginning, they could be committed and then less committed towards the end, but at least in the beginning, we make sure they are committed. I want to share with you some interesting figures, facts and figures, and this I don't remember by heart, so I'll read it to you. One is, if you include a video, you have 122% more funding than campaigns that only use text. If you involve teams and not only single entrepreneurs or people, then you have 70% more funding raised. When you have spelling errors in the text, you are reducing 30% your chances of success. And once you cross the 30% milestone, you have a 90% chance of actually reaching the full sum. And one of my favorite statistics, after all, we are in the Nordic countries, is that women are 30% more than likely to meet their goals than men. So well done to the women. They're much better at this than we are. Okay, in terms of code of ethics, I won't walk you through all the points, but the point is that we are taking seriously your privacy, your security, and the quality of what we publish. We are committed to secure IT services. We are committed to proper due diligence. We are committed to quality content and to quality projects. And this is what stands behind it. You can read it fully on the website. I will end up by telling you some of my projections for future trends. I think lending will always be there, okay? But what we would really see is the rise in equity crowdfunding. More people will be able to have a stake in promising small companies. How many of you would have liked to have a few shares in Facebook before it went big? All of you, right? So here's your chance. But also because there's a famous story. Oculus raised $2 million through Kickstarter, I think, and in less than 1 year, sold it to Facebook for $2 billion. And then people were not happy with their goggles anymore. They wanted shares in that company. And that trend will follow. People want shares in the projects they support. The other point is we'll see more and more niche platforms, unless these mega supermarkets of any type of projects you can think about. More specialized, focused in different industries. And we already see platforms for medical and biotechnologies. We see platforms for arts, for music. We see platforms for real estate. So more niche, more specific. And in terms of our challenges is to educate the market, to bring the message of crowdfunding out there, and to continuously lobby and have positive dialogue with authorities to get the regulations in place where there are still problems. On your end, we see an increased professionalism in the campaigns and in the quality of the campaigns. So competition is going to get tougher, but also the quality of what you can back and provide finance for. These are some good news that came out from this. You can follow the news on our website again, but I will not steal more money. Thank you very much for your attention. I'm here if you have any more questions, and I encourage you to check out the Nordic Crowdfunding Alliance, and in particular, Carolina Fund, your own local champion. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rotem. Rotem is the ideological architect behind the Nordic Crowdfunding Alliance and the way we all work together across the borders. There will be a chance to ask questions if you want to ask Rotem of something. That chance is now. I want to start by asking you, because you are a professor in business who has been thrust into this turbulent world of crowdfunding, working with us startup and creative types. From an academic point of view, what are the most interesting questions that you and your colleagues, because I know there are people here from the business schools in Iceland, what are the most interesting academical questions about crowdfunding that you can see you and your colleagues studying in the future?
I will split it into two. First, I will tell you why did I get into it in the beginning. And that is because I'm teaching entrepreneurship, and I see that much of the challenges out there is simply people not getting the funding to start things up. We work with students, they have brilliant ideas, and then they go and work, in a bank. Okay? Better salaries, less risk, don't need to go into it. And why? Because they didn't manage to get the funding. So I thought that crowdfunding would be a solution in such cases. At least give them the opportunity to try, and that get hooked on the idea. In terms of academic perspective, it's an open field. There's been very few publications in high-ranking journals that portray good quality research in the area of crowdfunding. From our perspective, it's an opportunity. We at the University of Agder want to be a center of excellence in terms of crowdfunding research. And the questions are numerous. I mean, why do people back the way they do back? Is there a difference between different types of crowdfunding types? What type of projects works best? What are the success factors behind successful campaigns? Cross-cultural and cross-national differences in terms of behavior towards crowdfunding and attitudes towards crowdfunding. So it's an endless. You can do network analysis of who is the influencers. How does a network of a successful crowdfunding campaign looks like? So it's endless questions, and if anybody is interested in the research aspect of it as well, talk to me. I'll be happy to work with you on it.
Great. Later on we will have a panel where we'll have a more free-flowing discussion, but is there a question for Rotem at this point? Yes?
It's a good question, but I don't think they will be replaced. I think they will join, because for them it's free due diligence. If the market says an idea is great, it's lower risks for them. They don't need to do this market validation. The market is validated. People said yes. So I think more and more professional investors would be willing to chip in, and we see them jumping on this wagon. An investor has this data already. that they are monitoring. They search for good ideas that are published on crowdfunding campaigns, and if they like it, they join the party.
Yeah, go on. Yeah, over there.
Would you have any explanation for the success of crowdfunding?
Well, I think you have an excellent team. I think the entrepreneurial spirit in Iceland is well known. There's something in the culture. I think there's also something in the experience that you had in terms of the financial crisis and the trauma that came with it, that people were more open than elsewhere to play with alternative finance. And I think this is part of the secret.
Over there. Yeah.
Yeah, I was wondering about the success rate of these startups, because from Silicon Valley we have the number like 25%. Is there any statistics behind the startup?
The truth is, I haven't seen such statistics. It's so early, fresh, and young. But I can tell you that I know of at least 8 big-time exits already. In terms of a company that made it, got money on one of these platforms, and made a very successful, large sum, 6 figures and above type of exits. But I don't know the overall success rates.
Yeah.
Do you think that the success of crowdsourcing things like open source, Wikipedia, and so on, have lead the way, so to say, that we are seeing this today? If we hadn't had that, would that be possible today?
No, I think the fundamental of crowdfunding came from crowdsourcing and the whole view of the ability to tap into people's resources, the crowd's resources. In crowdsourcing, it's about giving your time, your expertise to help develop a product or a technology. In crowdfunding is your ability to contribute funding and access to your networks to make an idea happen. So it's the same, let's say, ideological background, and it grew from the crowdsourcing movement.
Go on. Yeah.
Has there any study been done that show that those who are putting money into crowdfunding have previously taken part in crowdsourcing projects?
Not that I'm aware of. It's an excellent research question to follow.
If there's any business students out there looking to make a final thesis, note all these questions down. Go on.
What is the range of administrative costs?
Actually, I'd leave that to the platforms to mention. I don't know. I'll be honest. I don't know the figures. I think they vary. What I can say is that they vary immensely between reward and equity, because in reward the threshold is in a way lower of what you can accept. But when you go with an equity and call out for the public to bid for shares, then the regulation and the process and the reporting and the documents that needs to be provided is much more complex process. But I don't know the costs. Maybe the platforms that will come later can say some more about that.
Okay. We will continue taking questions from you throughout the program and then discussing them further in the panel. Thank you so much, Rotem.
Thank you. Takk fyrir.